A note before you begin. This book describes a stroke, addiction to substances, an eating disorder, and a period of self-harm thoughts. I wrote it honestly, which means some of it is hard. If you're in the middle of any of this yourself, read at your own pace, put it down when you need to. The resources at the back of this book are there for a reason, and reaching for them is not a detour from the story. It is the story. Author's note. I wrote this for those of you who feel like you're wearing a mask. Maybe the mask is still intact. Maybe it's starting to crack. Maybe you're standing in the pieces of it. This is my story. At 16, the mask I'd grown up behind was shattered by a stroke. The result was an accelerated descent into addiction to substances and food, a midlife crisis arriving far too early. This was how I found my way back to my authentic self. Before you read, remember this. Experience is relative to your own life. This wasn't written to compare your pain to mine in severity. What is a normal day for you might be traumatic for me. What is normal for me might be traumatic for you. It depends on your life experiences up to this moment. Whether you feel your pain or you were taught to suppress it and move forward, just know it's real.
Today is Monday, July 20th, 2026, and I am here with Benjamin, and we are going to talk about the night of September 22nd, 2017.
Introduction. Terror is when your body stops belonging to you. You give a command and nothing comes back. I was 16. I felt my face hit the turf. I could see my teammate's cleat right beside my face. The stadium lights had blinded everything else, 3 times too bright. I tried to get to my feet. My body gave no response. I gave it a command. Nothing. I screamed the command at my body. Nothing came back. It started a few months earlier with a question. After one practice that August, I was driving my teammate home. In the car, he asked me, "Ben, why do you play football?" I paused. I actually thought about it. I told him I played for the name on the back of my jersey so my parents would not have to pay for school, and I played for the name on the front of it, my high school, Stratford. The answers I gave had never been questions for me. My father had played college football. Both of my older brothers were playing Division I college football. The name on the back of my jersey, Miller, already meant something on a field. I was certain of what I had to do to live up to it, not because I had ever asked myself whether I wanted it. As soon as camp finished, the start of our season got pushed back 2 weeks. Hurricane Harvey struck Houston late in August. The fields flooded. Everything stopped. We had spent all of August getting into football shape. The 2 weeks off took it away. By the time the first game was rescheduled, I was out of shape. I did not perform to my expectations the night of the first game. Lethargic the whole way through. A step behind. That was where the pressure started. The pressure I carried all week and into the second game. This pressure sat between my shoulder blades, the weight of the family name, the need to prove myself. On the night of the second game, during warm-ups, I made a small choice, 2 pairs of cleats, the game day pair that had not served me well in the first game, and my practice pair worn every day that week, the ones that felt like an extension of my body. I chose the practice pair, not because I had to, because I wanted to. That was the last decision I made from a place of comfort for a long time. By the time we walked out of the locker room for the game, the pressure was gone. Everything was loose, arms, legs, neck, a coiled spring ready to release. I had done the work to be ready, and my body knew it. It was a beautiful night. The sun had set, 80 degrees. The stadium lights were on bright and white. By the end of the first quarter, I was in the flow of the game. The inside linebacker, my position, is the quarterback of the defense. You take the call from the coach, relay it to your teammates, make sure everyone is in the right place before the play begins. By the end of the first quarter, the game felt effortless, and I was reading the offense. I was where I needed to be. I was just playing football. I sat down on the bench between the first and second quarters, and something was wrong. My world was tilting, not a lot, but enough that I had to stare at my feet to keep my balance while still sitting on the bench, eyes locked on my cleats. In the world I grew up in, the world of football, you play through pain. You play through the whistle. You play to the next play, and so I ran the math. I've played concussed before. I can do it again. If I can sit, I can stand. If I can stand, I can run. If I can run, I can play. I strapped my helmet back on and went back out onto the field. The first or second play of the second quarter, I was reading the running back. He was going to his right, my left. I shuffled left to follow him. And on the first step where the shuffle became a run, my legs didn't work right. I stumbled. 2 steps, maybe 3, but I caught myself. I kept moving. I got to the ball carrier and helped bring him to the ground around the 50-yard line. I got up and was immediately looking for my coach to get the call for the next play. And as I turned back toward the middle of the field, my body collapsed. Not a stumble, not a trip, a collapse face first. The right side of my face hit the turf. I could see and feel the little black rubber pieces, small and hard and warm from sitting in the sun all day. Out of the left corner of my eye, the stadium lights had become unbearable, whiting out everything at the edges of my vision. My mind started screaming, "Get up, move, Ben." I sent the signal to my arms, my legs, my hands. Nothing happened. I was not afraid anymore. I was in terror. My body was not responding to the commands of my mind. It felt like an hour. It was probably a minute. My body stayed perfectly still on the field. The trainers came running out the way they do when a player goes down. They were kneeling beside me, hands on my back, my shoulders. One of them asked, "What hurts? Where are you injured?" I did not know how to answer. Nothing hurt. That was the problem. Nothing hurt. But nothing worked, and I said, "I don't know. I don't know what's wrong." They rolled me from my stomach to my back. My left side did the work. My right side was already shut down. The left carotid artery in my neck had torn. A clot was forming, and the right side of my body had stopped responding. I did not know any of that yet. They helped me sit up, then to my feet, one trainer under each arm, and I started walking. The rule I was taught was simple. If you are hurt, you can walk off the field. If you are injured, you cannot. In that moment, with my right side half gone, my balance destroyed, my brain starving of blood, I followed the rule. I walked off the field. They walked me to the same bench I had gotten up from a few minutes before. Someone put a towel over my head. I kept staring at the ground. The trainers ran the concussion test. "What is your name?" "Benjamin Miller." "What are you doing?" "Playing a football game." "Where are you?" "Darrell Tully Stadium." I passed every question, correct and clear. My brain had not fully shut down yet. I could still answer. But even as I answered, my face was already paralyzed. The test listened to my words. It did not look at my face. They were testing the wrong thing. What I learned later: one of my teammates, a 17-year-old who would go on to study pre-medicine, looked at my face and knew immediately. The right side of it was not moving. No expression. It had already stroked. He told our other teammates, "Ben is having a stroke." About 20 minutes later, the trainers began to walk me out of the stadium where my parents would meet me. As I passed the cheerleaders on my walk out around the 20-yard line, I do not know why I looked up, but I did, and I made eye contact with one of the cheerleaders. For one split second, before she could control her face, I saw it. Her jaw dropped, her eyes went wide, and then fast like a switch flipping, she forced a smile. Her mouth curved up. I knew then, without being able to name it, that something was very wrong with me. The trainers beside me were calm, professional, under control. But the cheerleader could not hide her expression when she saw my face. I looked back down at my feet and kept walking. We reached the ramp up to the exit. As I started up, I began leaning to my right, not on purpose. My body just tipped that direction, like gravity pulling me sideways. I did not notice it happening. I could not feel myself losing balance. I found out because the trainers told me, "We're going to bring the athletic cart over. You cannot walk." That is how I learned my own body was failing. Someone had to tell me. They brought the cart and sat me in the passenger seat, one trainer in the back holding me upright so I would not slump and fall out the side of the cart. The ride was about 15 yards, so short I do not remember it. As I was being helped into my parents' car, the team doctor came to the driver's side window and gave my father directions to a clinic down the street, 3 minutes away. My parents said no. They were taking me to Memorial Hermann Hospital. My father pulled away from the doctor out of the stadium and turned left, speeding down Tully Road toward the Memorial Hermann Spring Branch emergency room. With the blood flow I had already lost to my brain, I would have died in the clinic that night. My parents saved my life in that parking lot. We flew down Tully Road. My father drove the way you drive when you understand that every second count. It felt like the car was not touching the ground. It felt like we were flying. Maybe that was the speed. Maybe it was my brain no longer processing things right. I could not tell the difference anymore. My mother had me out of the car and through the doors before we had fully stopped, talking to the nurse at the desk as we moved. He collapsed on the field. Something is seriously wrong. They took me back immediately. No waiting room, no paperwork. The ER is a blur. A bed, machines beeping, nurses moving around me. They thought it was a severe concussion, the same thing everyone had thought all night. They ran a CT scan, the base of my skull up to the top. It came back normal, nothing wrong. And lying there for the first time since the bench, things slowed down enough to think. The relief came in, just a bad concussion. The scan was clean. I started doing the math. How long would this keep me off the field? 3 weeks, 4. I would be back by mid-season. Nobody had said the word stroke, not once. Not all night, not in all the years I had played the game. Football taught you to fear concussions, head trauma, CTE. So I lay in the emergency room planning my return while the artery in my neck was clotted. Then lying there, my right side came back. I wiggled my toes and they answered. I moved my fingers and they worked. Relief flooded in. It was working. My body was mine again. Once the nurses saw the movement had returned, they started getting me ready for discharge. It was over before it began. I had that for 5 minutes, maybe 10. What I did not know, my brain had found a backup route, pushing blood across from the right side of my brain to the left side, keeping the left hemisphere alive. That was what kept the right half of my body working. That was what had given me my hand and my foot back, and then the backup route clotted too. Then it was gone, my right side dead weight again. The terror came back exactly as it had been on the field, and my mother was screaming for the nurses to come back into the room. Once the nurses saw the state I had returned to, they called downtown to the main Memorial Hermann Hospital in Houston's medical center and got the neurosurgeon on call that night, Dr. Joseph Cochran. They described what they had seen, the paralysis, the brief return of movement, the relapse, and he told them what they had missed. Carotid artery dissection, a stroke. In 10 years as an athlete, I had never seen or heard of someone my age having a stroke from playing a sport. The CT scan had not been wrong. It had looked in the wrong place. They had scanned my brain. The tear was in my neck in the left carotid artery, below the base of my skull, lower than the scan had gone. Get him downtown now, Cochran told them, and I will meet him there. After that, everyone moved fast. They loaded me onto a gurney and wheeled me out of the emergency room outside to the roof. I was losing consciousness as they moved me. The only sense I still had intact was my hearing. As they loaded me onto the life flight helicopter, I could only hear the paramedic's voice. We will be downtown in 15 to 20 minutes, just hang in there. After that, only the helicopter blades whirring and whirring above my head. The sound of them was the only thing returning me to consciousness. As we approached downtown Houston, I felt the helicopter touch down, and everything went black. Here is what I still carry from that night after losing consciousness. I was curled in a ball in the corner of the room. The room was pitch black. My head was tucked into my arms, looking down at my feet, the same way I had stared at my cleats on the bench. On the bench, I had stared down because my world was spinning. Here I stared down because I was terrified to look up. The first time I looked up, I saw him, a figure standing in front of the doors, standing the way a guard stands, feet together, upright, his back to me. The closed double doors, a window in each, the bright white light visible through both windows, and he was keeping them closed. If he opened them, I could pass through. He did not open the doors. The second time I looked up, he turned around and we locked eyes. No words were spoken, but I knew it was not my time to pass.